It can only be attributable to human error.
You're entering paranormal.
He meddled in things that you people. He meddled in things. He meddled in things.
Where will we go next? It's a phantom from another time.
No one, Mr. Muller.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hi, my name is Alex Daikaiju. To my left,
Jasmine with
across from us,
Eli Watson.
and you're listening to
Cryptid Campfire. Welcome to week 2 of Bigfoot Mountain, everybody.
Yeah,
we're getting ready to talk about some famous footage in the realm of Bigfoot, the good old Patterson Gimlin film.
Some big footage, if you will.
Whoa! Puns on puns on puns on puns.
And good night.
Yep.
So, today we're talking about one of the most famous
The Patterson Gimlin film
of one
Or-
Bigfoot.
of a Bigfoot, of a Sasquatch. It is probably the most famous footage out there.
Most like definitive thing that people think of when you say Bigfoot too.
Yeah, people always think of that walking pose when it turns to look at the camera. I mean,
Even if you don't recognize the name, you've probably seen the footage or a screen cap of the footage, or you'll recognize the pose.
You mean from the pose from frame 352?
Maybe.
Yeah.
The one where Bigfoot does a dab.
Yeah. So.
Take it away. Who's Patterson?
Oh yeah. So.
Yeah. So who is this Patterson?
Who are
Well,
these
first of all,
people?
that's the thing. Patterson Gimlin is the last names of the two people who took the footage. That's where the name comes from. And the location that this happened in was Bluff Creek. So we're going to learn, before we get into what actually happened that day, we're going to learn a little bit about who those two people were, why they were interested, and how they ended up in Bluff Creek.
And if you want to be like a cool cryptozoologist, you call it PGF.
Oh yeah, you call it PGF. Yeah.
It's like I was watching some videos and they're like, so we're talking about PGF today.
Oh yeah. Super cool. So, Roger Patterson. I keep saying Pattinson. I'm so sorry. I'm probably gonna do it through the whole episode.
What the heck?
It's.
He just got cast as Batman.
He
We're all
did.
reeling from it.
So, Roger Patterson was a. I'm gonna be honest. I started when he got into Bigfoot, which was 1959.
Yeah. That's actually when he entered the world.
When he when he started existing. So he ran into some articles by our friend Ivan Sanderson, who we've talked about previously. He published a book on Abominable Snowman, but this was actually before that book came out, and he was doing articles in True magazine. And Roger Patterson picked up one of these magazines and was just like, "Whoa, this is some good stuff."
I dig it, man.
Yeah, and he just got hooked on the Bigfoot thing, and he traveled to Bluff Creek in 1964 for the first time, and that's when he met a guy named Pat Graves, who showed him Bigfoot tracks. Pat Graves actually was the guy who investigated the hoaxed Bigfoot steps.
Oh.
From 58.
That we mentioned in the last episode? Okay, cool.
Ooh.
And so Pat Graves, that got him into it, but then he started discovering like other tracks that were authentic, obviously.
Right.
And there's several differences you can probably tell right off the bat about what makes it real and what's not. Just the way the foot hits the ground. We'll get into it.
Yeah. You're chomping at the bit.
Yeah. So Pat Graves was like, "Hey Roger, you're a cool guy. I'll show you some Bigfoot steps." And kind of went on from there. Let's see. Roger also worked on a book called "Do Abominable Snowmen of America Really Exist?" And he released that in 1966.
Self-published, right?
It's self-published. Basically, he was just compiling different reported sightings into one book, so he didn't really like write it. But
he compiled it, but I think what he did add bring to the table was he included maps of sightings and stuff, where a lot of our books and stuff didn't really have mapped out sections, so he kind of compiled it everywhere. So it was like, oh, there's kind of you can see threads of where a lot of these things happen. So that was he kind of combined them all.
And that's how he met John Green, actually. It was during the writing of this book. So a lot of the information I have comes from John Green himself, because they ended up kind of working closely together. Unfortunately, the book didn't do very well.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't raise enough money for the expedition he wanted to lead, to do an expedition to find.
Because this was 66?
Yeah, 66.
Because unfortunately, this is after the death of Tom Slick.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. If Tom Slick had been around,
he probably could have funded it.
He probably could have.
There's an alternate universe out there where Tom Slick survived, and like we all just live with Bigfoots now, and society's perfect.
That'd be crazy.
We got to do a time heist now.
So I have this about when John Green met Roger Patterson. It has a lot to do about his character, and I think it made me view him slightly differently than the way the internet, especially the Wikipedia page, tends to paint him.
Yeah.
And
I'll be honest, I've stopped reading Wikipedia.
It's pretty bad.
So I didn't even, like, the past few episodes that we've been researching, I haven't even clicked on the Wikipedia.
Sick.
Good.
That's tight. I remember when it was the other way around.
Yeah, it was all I would read. Well, it is a good starting point, especially if you like scroll down to the bottom and find the other sources and kind of branch off from there. But I'm not even looking at Wikipedia anymore.
Yeah. So he says this about Roger Patterson, that he obviously had no money when he met him. I'm presuming somewhere like 65. Stop!
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Sorry.
Jasmine's trying to play footsie with me.
Big footsie?
Draw that.
Yeah. Just like Bigfoot trying to play footsie with everyone.
You're out. Someone's out camping, and then like a foot just like creeps into their tent. And they're like, "What is that?"
And it's just like eek eek eek.
So.
Sorry.
Derailed. All right. He obviously had no money and was plainly a man given to obsessions, not only about the Sasquatch, but about horses, health foods, and a couple of inventions he was promoting. He was certain that Sasquatches were human and must not be shot, and he was deaf to any argument to the contrary. I have seen him described as a rancher, but that was not the case. He had been a rodeo rider, however, and was never to be found on foot if there was any way he could be on a horse. He was a small man, though very muscular, and his horses were small too. He actually had a Volkswagen van rigged up so he could transport 2 horses in it. His obsession with horses may have had something to do with his success in getting the movie, while his insistence on not shooting was certainly the reason why his success was not conclusive. At that time, he had already had one brush with death from Hodgkin's disease, which was then considered incurable, and from which he died about 5 years later, but no one who met him would have suspected it. So that's just a little image that I just kind of feel like
kind of sets up the man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess we'll say in the Wikipedia page they just crap all over.
Yeah,
him.
they really do.
They're like, oh man, did you know famed dickhead and asshole Roger Pattinson.
I'm getting everyone's heads now.
He used to just like kick puppies while he was trying to find Bigfoots.
It's borderline.
He like robbed from people, and he even it's just like, wow, okay, geez Louise, who wrote this? John Keel?
Yeah, I know, right? So that kind of just leads us up into the day of. And Jasmine is going to tell the story.
So the other half of this crew is Bob Gimlin. So back in 1967 at the time was when Gimlin was 35. So this is a little background on him. He was making a living driving trucks, roofing, and riding and taming horses. I guess him and Patterson had been old rodeo pals. And they ran into each other at a Union Gap service station one day. And this is when Patterson was recovering from one of his bouts with cancer. And Patterson told Gimlin of his interest in supposed Bigfoot sightings. And at this station, the service station, Patterson actually had a plaster cast of a Bigfoot print in his truck, which he brought out to show Gimlin to see if he would be interested in searching on horseback for evidence of Bigfoot. There weren't many other people who Patterson could talk to, because nobody really wanted to believe him. But Gimlin was like a nice enough guy to kind of like listen to what he was saying, not necessarily believing in it, but just like having an open ear. And so Patterson continued to share this Bigfoot lore and testimonies of real life encounters and books on the topic, despite Gimlin's insistence that he didn't care. So even though Gimlin was like listening and like letting his friend talk and like entertaining his ideas, he was really on the side of, I don't really care. Like, this isn't really my thing.
You can tell in the interviews. I don't know if you guys watched any interviews,
yeah, a little bit, yeah.
You can tell he really. I mean, he's found a place in the Bigfoot community, but you can tell he just really didn't care.
He's like, this guy told me you want to go find a Bigfoot, and I said, well, I got nothing better to do, so I might as well go take a look. And we saw it, and now I don't really want to talk about it, but everyone won't leave me alone.
Yeah. So 1967 is when Patterson told Gimlin about the logging road construction crew spotting tracks and having their equipment inexplicably disassembled in the Six Rivers National Forest. He begged Gimlin to drive the two men and their horses to Northern California to go on this search. So Gimlin was skeptical that anything actually existed, but he was intrigued. He's quoted as saying, I wanted to see these footprints that people talked about. So that's kind of a little bit of background on Gimlin. Like, he wasn't necessarily a believer before going out. He was kind of just entertaining the idea, didn't really want to, but didn't want to make his friend feel bad. So he just kind of was like, okay, let's go. And that's kind of how they ended up in the forest on this adventure one day.
So wait, I just want to, because Patterson had a camera with him. Why did he have a camera with him?
Well, I didn't know we were getting into that part yet.
Oh, I don't know.
I thought we were just leading up to it.
Oh, well, this is part of the lead up.
I actually
Surprise,
don't. Is there like a secret to this? Because I just figured.
His book didn't do well, so he was trying to make a film about it.
Yeah.
But he brought the camera out there to film the tracks.
Yeah. It was specifically brought for that purpose.
Yeah.
Because like you mentioned before we started recording, there's this idea that they just went out and happened to come across Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But they were. That's why they were there.
Yeah. Yeah. He rented a camera. Because this turns into a whole thing.
Yeah.
Later, he rented a little Kodak Y200 camera. It runs on, it films 16mm color film. That's what he brought out with him. He rented it from Yakima, Washington, which is where he lived. And so they were out there riding horses, hoping to find some tracks. In fact, they were out there for a couple of days.
There's a lot, because this is another fact too. If you look up the footage, you might find like a 52-second version of it, but it's actually longer than that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, the footage is much more than just the Bigfoot sighting. Like, there's plenty of video of them like riding horseback, filming nature, like filming the horses, like. They've cut it down on YouTube so that it is just the Bigfoot segment, but there is more to it than just.
They were like filming all day, like random stuff. And I think
Mm-hmm.
they were probably setting up shots. They're like looking for, because they were trying to film. I believe where they were trying to shoot like a pseudo documentary about a story about cowboys who had met a Bigfoot at like an abandoned mine.
Yeah.
And so that's where like, well, this looks kind of like Wild Westy area.
Yeah.
So they were looking, and then.
But I mean, he went out there because there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings out there in Bluff Creek, so.
It ain't no bluff.
So then.
In the creek.
Yeah. So they were out there for a couple of days, and then the fateful day, October 20th, comes. Jasmine, did you want to take it away?
Well, it's actually kind of simple when we get down to that part. So they're out on horseback, which I didn't know previous to this research. Like I said, I didn't
know it either.
Like, I just saw the 52-second version. I think it's 52. I don't know why I'm sticking to that number. But I had only ever seen the Bigfoot segment of the creature walking through the forest. But they were out there on horseback. And according to the research I have, the horses are actually the one who noticed Bigfoot first. So they're riding through the forest, and then the horses start to freak out. They kick and protest, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, why? And then they realized what the horses had been seeing, and they looked over and they saw a hulking gorilla-like figure covered in dark hair hurried on two legs along the creek bed. Its sloped head and torso were pushed forward, its upper back hunched, thigh muscles rippling, and long arms swinging, breast exposed, which is a very interesting description for everything that they see.
I mean, it's something to see, all right?
It's definitely wild.
So what happens when they see this is Patterson jumps off his horse and reaches in his bag to grab the camera because he hadn't been recording at that exact moment. So he reaches in, he grabs it. It's really dumpy and scrambly as he tries to
It's like the beginning of the footage is like all shaky.
Yeah, because he's trying to steady himself. So he runs across the uneven ground and crouches to steady himself. And Gimlin so that's Patterson who did that. Gimlin, on the other hand, is like getting his rifle ready for protection. And so Patterson steadies himself and captures this creature mid-stride who turns to look over its shoulder at the camera before it just walks off on into the forest. And it's noted that there was a skunky odor in the air at that time as well. And this whole thing happened in less than a minute. Like I said, 52 seconds or whatever it is.
Well, some slightly more details at the very beginning, because I have that Roger actually, his horse freaked out and like threw him off.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then that's why he was scrambling to get the camera.
Yeah.
Because from where he landed, the camera was on the other side of the horse, so he had to run around the horse.
Gotcha.
Grab the camera. But Bob said, and I found this because I was like, why would because they had 3 horses with them.
Yeah.
One of them ran away. Rogers ran away right after he got the camera, but Bob never got off his horse.
Yeah.
And it's because that was Bob's horse that he had for a while, and so he was able to calm it and relax it, you know, that bond. And so...
Yeah, because he had a history, like I said, in rodeo. Like, horses was kind of his thing.
Yeah. And so that's all I wanted to add was just the horse freak out.
Yeah.
So... And
so he's off to the side trying to calm his horse, and then Patterson got the camera, and they ran off. And that's what he's kind of doing.
Patterson actually followed the creature into the forest for a little bit. And if you can, you can try to find a little bit of it. There's some parts where it gets shaky again after you see the creature walk, because he follows it into the forest. They followed it, they said, about like 3 miles before they lost it, and he said he just kept recording until his film ran out.
Yeah.
And he yelled for Bob to cover him in case, but from what I understand, Bob never like loaded up his gun.
Yeah.
Because he said that the creature, there was no reason to.
Yeah, it was just out walking.
Yeah.
And these weirdos showed up and started invading its privacy with camera.
I just realized, for whatever reason, they named the Bigfoot Patty.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that comes from Patterson's last name.
Probably.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, the creature that they captured, they decided to name Patty. And this, you would think that this footage would like unite them or like give them some credibility. Did the complete opposite and basically tore them apart and made them estranged towards each other.
Well, before we get there, because there's quite a flurry of events that happens immediately after.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They covered up some of the tracks with bark. I don't know if you guys knew that.
I did not.
It comes up later, and I'll tell you. They went straight back to civilization right after. Roger actually called the Museum of British Columbia to try to get some scientists, some tracking hounds down there.
Okay.
And they said, and I quote, they said, "We'll just wait till we watch the film."
Yeah.
And then right after, like a few days later, they went like right back out to the creek. And they were able to get, only one guy came down, and his name was, give me 1 second. Bob Titmus. Bob Titmus went down there, and they casted the casts. Because they casted some of the footsteps, and then Bob Titmus came down and recasted some of them.
With, what did they use? Plaster, right?
Yeah, plaster. So they got some of that. Bob Titmus apparently brought his brother-in-law along from San Diego. They drove from San Diego all the way up there.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. Long trip. And his brother was a big game hunter, but he didn't believe in anything like Bigfoot. But as they were examining the tracks were sunken in about an inch and a half into the sand.
Right.
And the only thing they were able to, like, step in was maybe 3/4 of an inch at the softest point.
Yeah.
They couldn't, so that obviously clued him in that it was a heavy creature.
It had a lot of weight to it.
Yeah, because he said his brother was about 200 pounds at that point.
Right.
And he's making 3/4 of an inch in the sand.
Who's his brother again? Sorry.
Bob Titmus's brother, just some random dude.
Oh.
I got it from John Green's book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I have some information about Patterson's brother-in-law.
Yeah, oh yeah, because they sent
Yeah.
the film up to Patterson's brother-in-law. I kind of skipped over that. But yeah, continue it. There's torrential rainfall right after that, actually. Washed all the footsteps away.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like nature always has a way of doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I thought was very interesting. It was like, it just, like, right after they got those casts, the rain came in.
There's always some sort of natural weather occurrence that prevents things from being discovered or expeditions from happening.
Maybe that's the mystical elements
Yeah.
of the Bigfoot
Yeah.
at play, you know,
Perhaps.
like.
You never know.
So yeah, basically it was not fun times after this video came out. It met immediate criticism, accused Patterson and Gimlin of being master pranksters who simply filmed a man in an ape suit and laid fake footprints in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
It basically tore their friendship apart, even though I guess they didn't really have... I mean, they were friends, but it wasn't like they were BFFs or anything before that.
Yeah, they were just like two guys that... Well, I mean, is one guy who was like, I'm going to go find a Bigfoot. And the other a little cowboy who's like, well, I guess they'll come along.
I guess I'll go
but
too.
We both like horses, I do declare.
But yeah, they had plans to take the film on a national tour as a way to raise funds for the expedition to go back to Bluff Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And they took equal shares in the film, but eventually Gimlin gave up. He was out. He decided he wanted out, and he sold his share of the rights for less than $10 to another Bigfoot researcher.
Yeah, supposedly to make her go away because she was being annoying. That's what I read.
Really?
I don't know.
I didn't read
There was
anything
a
about that.
lot going on there. The politics of the whole situation
yeah,
thereafter is
Very Games of Thrones.
it's ridiculous.
So 5 years go by. So basically, that's when Gimlin dipped out. Gimlin was like, "Okay, I'm done with this."
I'm sorry. Could I get one more thing
Yeah,
in there?
for
okay,
sure.
because this is still like the immediate aftermath
Okay.
that I have here, is that the footage they sent it straight off to
Right, I kind of skipped over
yeah,
that
no
real
worries.
quick.
Yeah, they sent it to, what was his name? Al
Diatley,
Diatley. Yeah, Al Diatley.
Mhm.
Yeah. They sent it, and that
which
was
is Patterson's brother-in-law.
brother-in-law.
Oh, yeah.
John Green went there that day when the footage arrived, and they watched it together. The
Mhm.
footage, like the first people to watch it was watching this in like the garage or something.
Yeah.
And then they sent it to the Museum of British Columbia, obviously. And he said John Green was there, Patterson was there, everyone was there, and they watched it together, and they could tell just by the atmosphere in the room that no one wanted to say it to their faces, but they thought it had been faked.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, because Bob Titmus only took 10 casts,
Right.
casts of 10 footsteps, and the best ones to try to get the best shape of the foot, and they said that the footsteps were fake.
Mm-hmm.
The casts were fake because they were too perfect. So, and then they sent it off to LA and to New York, and no one cared.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I think it's pretty wild.
they sent it to Universal too.
Did they really?
Yeah, because people had said that it was fake, and so Patterson and Gimlin actually had the video examined by experts from the special effects department at Universal Studios in Hollywood, who argued, quote, "We could try faking it, but we would have to create a completely new system of artificial muscles and find an actor who could be trained to walk like that.
Yeah.
It might be done, but we would have to say that it would be almost impossible."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because interesting note about the stride is that the Bigfoot never locks its knees,
Yeah.
and humans lock their knees in every step. So it's like,
There was this little video I watched to where this group of like movement analysis. Like they study how muscles and gaits work and stuff. And they're like, well, we tried to replicate it with a guy, and they told him, okay, you kind of slouch like this and that. And even when he was just trying to walk, like he kept locking his knees.
Yeah,
like
he
he
couldn't
couldn't take a step the distance that the creature was. And they're like, well, it's close enough. Let's compare it. And they're like, well, it's clearly a man in the suit. And it's like, but the gait didn't work. It didn't match up quite. Like his movements, because the video I was watching, they're like, I drew a line over him. Here's his gait. Now let's compare it to the thing. And it's like, his knees are like locking completely.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, how does that's not, working.
Yeah.
So it's, and it's taking big steps. Just a gait that is going, and it's moving like super easy, but in a weird way, that's you'd have to really put a lot of time and effort into get that gait going.
Yeah.
If it was two guys being like, all right, we got this monkey suit, go walk, go improvise a walk, and the guy's like improvise the most graceful, hard gait ever without moving his knees, and they're like, oh, that's pretty good for for a couple of good old boys with a camera.
Patterson got arrested right after as well, a few weeks later, because he never returned his camera. Isn't that crazy?
He was arrested for amateur pornography because
my goodness,
the Bigfoot's breasts were out.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I actually changed it in my notes. I wrote chest, but I still read breasts because I thought it was funny.
Well, I will say this, because I've grown up being interested in cryptids and paranormal and stuff, doing my little funny hand movements. I've seen this video all the time, like when National Geographic or History Channel does it. And it wasn't until I think I was talking to Eli about it. I was like, oh man, I saw this really funny sculpture someone did towards the Patterson Bigfoot, but it's got big boobs on it.
Yeah.
He's like, well, that's because it's in the video. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, they are.
I never noticed it until just recently that this Bigfoot's got them big old boobies hanging out. And it blew my mind because I never knew. I never saw it until just recently. So
now I'm Googling the image again.
Yeah. That's a busty Bigfoot.
And that image, that screen cap, that's what you see everywhere. On air fresheners, on t-shirts, on coffee mugs. Like, that image of her/him looking over the shoulder at the camera, that's where that image comes from. So even if you've never seen...
Super iconic.
Even if you've never seen the Patterson Gimlin film, you've seen that image, most likely.
Interesting note about Roger Patterson. On his deathbed. A few days before he died, he said that he had wished that they had shot and killed the creature instead of just getting a reel of film.
Yeah. Who did he say that to?
He probably said it.
He said that to... Hold on, I had it. Where did it go? Jack Webster.
Who's Jack Webster? Is he just some random guy?
Yeah, he interviewed him. Wait, what? No, it's not. It's not Jack Webster. I'm
sorry.
Oh,
he's a guy interview in Vancouver.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. Let's see.
I'm a fake fan.
We can just edit out all this dead space.
Oh yeah, we will. There's a lot of it.
Shit, yeah, because oh, here we go. Peter Brine. Patterson, a few days before Roger died, he told Bigfoot book author Peter Brine that in retrospect, he wished he would have shot the thing and brought out a body instead of a reel of film. But also, it's kind of crazy. Whoa. Oh, and Brine, I think, was the guy who was attached to sneaking out the Yeti hand.
Really?
I believe so.
Interesting.
Yeah, Brine, yeah, he's one of the guys who put the fake bones there when they were snugging out the hand. So that's crazy. Because I was going to say, wait, who's this guy making the claim that Patterson wished, he would have shot the thing, especially after he spent his whole life? Because it's kind of counterintuitive to be like, I found Bigfoot, and I should have just shot the thing.
Yeah, especially after saying that he believed it to be a subspecies of human.
Yeah, because that fits in line with the Wikipedia version of some guy who's just like, yeah, you know what, like, I wish I would have shot the thing, and also I wish I would have had $1 million from...
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh, I maybe that's paraphrasing.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, that's a dying man's last thoughts, of like, but still, it's crazy to think that for such an advocate of being like, no, like, there's something more to these things than just big dumb monkeys. They're intelligent, they're beautiful, there is a new species, a species has been around. And then to be like, also, I wish I would have put a bullet in its head.
well, Gimlin wishes he hadn't gone.
Really?
Yeah, he's been quoted as saying that it ruined me.
Just the whole aftermath of it,
well,
or
yeah,
just the actual sighting?
So not well. Yeah, the whole aftermath thing kind of ruined his life in the normal world.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, by 1972, Patterson had died, and Gimlin was the one left to face the critics that emerged from around the country. So he and his wife have actually been confronted in their hometown. Yakima was the place where Gimlin had become known for his fearlessness and strength, because he had this reputation as like a rodeo guy who trained horses and all of this other stuff. He roped wild horses with the native boys on the nearby Yakima reservation. He was a rodeo man. He raced caravans and chariots through mountain passes and hurtled down cliff sides. So he had this reputation as like a daredevil. At age 18, he joined the Army Reserves, and then he enlisted in the Navy. So now by this point where he's claiming to have seen Bigfoot, like, his handshake and his word were in doubt. That's the way that this article quoted it, because that's, like, they compared it to, like, a type of currency. Like, your handshake and your word and your trust is really valuable in a town like this. And now he wasn't being taken seriously. So if he acknowledged that he had seen Bigfoot, then he was a loon. But at the same time, if he stayed quiet, then people assumed he was lying. So he had told John Green, I can understand why they don't believe in it, because I didn't believe it either. But I saw one, and I know what I saw, and I know it wasn't a man in a suit. It couldn't have been. So it took him a long time to actually talk more about it. When is the first time? I think I have in here. So yeah, he first appeared at a convention in California in 2003. So 2003 was the first time that he decided to, like,
open up about it
and find people who actually wanted to respect him and hear what he had to say. So this was at the Willow Creek International Bigfoot Symposium. He spoke on Bigfoot for the first time in years. And he now appears at conventions across the country. You're probably going to see him when you go?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. I would love to meet him.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So he actually, the first time that he did this, he, like, got a standing ovation.
Yeah.
And I don't think I wrote it down, but I read that he was kind of, like, taken aback. Like, he spent all this time being criticized and being made fun of, and then he goes to this convention and people are, like, clapping and praising him and, like, believing what he's saying, and he's like, what the heck? Why didn't I find these people sooner?
Yeah.
So...
Poor guy. He was just, like, his buddy was just real into apes.
Yeah.
He showed up, saw it, and just ruined his life.
It's just the classic example of just, like, the dangers of, like, I got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's your friend's like, hey, you wanna go to the mall? You're like, well, I got nothing. And then, next thing you know, something crazy happens.
Get abducted by aliens.
Yeah, or you see, the Mongolian death worm, like, on the Mongolian barbecue, and you're like, did anyone else see that? No one does, and now you're the crazy one.
But when he's not, going on tour and speaking at conventions, he's just chilling in Washington. He's a retired rancher. He leases land around the Yakima area where he grazes his horses. He mows pastures, grows cucumbers in his garden and tomatoes. And he's a member of several local equestrian clubs. So he's still into horses. And...
That's good. It would have been sad if he was like, I swore off horses.
I know, he's like, this
for the rest of my life.
Too much trouble.
So I guess I already talked a little bit that people had already thought it was a hoax, but I don't know if we want to get into that a little bit more.
I mean, you want to say what the hoax is, what people think it is?
Well, the most, like, we mentioned a little bit briefly about how the most commonly held belief of it being a hoax is that it's someone in a suit.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And there are people who have claimed to be the one in the suit.
Mm-hmm.
Several people, yeah. Wait, is it?
I believe so. I want to say, because I tried looking it up, because I remember... So I remember I was doing my research, and it was like, oh, this guy, the name popped up, Bob Hieronymus.
Hieronymus. Yeah.
And
who cares?
Yeah, this clucker.
Yeah, this cluckhead.
He claims to be the guy who was in the suit because he was around the group. I think he was trying to help them make the movie or something.
Yeah.
Their movie before they found the Patty.
Yeah.
But I remember watching. I want to say, something on History Channel years ago, like early 2000. There was a different guy than what Bob looks like. He was like, I was the guy in the suit. And So it's one of those things where I think everyone can come forward and be like, oh, I'll tell you what, because Bob is like, oh, they paid me $1,000 to be in that suit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's funny because the production value was $700.
Yeah, I know.
Like, what? And why would they pay you so much to be a monkey? Like,
that's part of the reason why I read John Green's quote, because he had no money.
Yeah, that's like he scripted and saved and like sold anything he could to try to get any money going.
Yeah, obviously.
But... But he claimed in 2005 he took a lie detector test.
The polygraphy test, yeah.
Yeah, which I mean is one of those things.
Well, can we get to that in a minute? Because I have some things to say.
Ooh, you got some.
I got some words.
Some bars to put down.
I got some bars to put down, but I'm talking about a little bit like right after about what Hollywood was saying. I guess I didn't know about the Universal one, but John Chambers. He did Spock's ears.
Oh, okay.
He did the Munsters, Lost in Space, Halloween 2.
Oh.
All of the Planet of the Apes movies.
Oh, okay.
In fact, he won an Oscar for the makeup in Planet of the Apes, which came out the year after the sighting. And people thought it was him. Yeah. For the longest time. And he never really said no. But he never said yes either. He just kind of was like, yeah, I guess.
He's like, huh? What?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just making monkey suits like for these movies. What you want from me?
Well, he did say he had nothing to do with the film when he died, though. On his deathbed, he said he had nothing to do with it. Yeah. Which, I mean, if you're on your deathbed, why would you say no? Yeah. Unless he really had nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you look at the makeup in Planet of the Apes. It's not. I mean, fantastic.
Yeah, for the time, you're like, wow. Yeah, they're like, oh my gosh. But you look at it, like, it's just, you can tell it's just prosthetics over, And there's even, I was watching a video to like, here's Patty. Here's the shot of the Bigfoot, looking over his shoulder. Mm-hmm. Now here's a shot from, I think, beneath the Planet of the Apes, where there's like a shirtless gorilla. Yeah. And it just looks like a big chunk of like sheep wool over a guy. Yeah. And they're like, that's the special effects of the time. Now here's these two guys who had no money. Yeah. Like, how do they make this extremely complex suit, when they had no money?
Mm-hmm. There's a costume maker named Philip Morris. Did you say his name already?
Not yet. I just want to make a quick note about John Chambers because he kind of is related to something that we're about to do, and that he trained Rick Baker. Oh. Who did the makeup for Harry and the Hendersons. Mm-hmm.
Rick Baker, who also did American Werewolf in London, which we did earlier.
We'll also be talking about later.
Oh.
So I'll tell you in a minute. All right.
Oh,
Jasmine?
Shoot.
Well, I was just going to have a quick note. With this speculation that it was a guy in a suit, there's no... It's all circumstantial evidence. None of it's backed by any concrete proof because there's a cost... first of all, we mentioned Bob, what's-his-face, said he was the one that wore the suit, but there's no proof for that. Mm-hmm. And there's also a costume maker named Philip Morris, who in the early 2000s said that he sold Patterson the suit. But there's no evidence of that sale either.
Yeah, well, yeah, he was like, yeah, I sold him that suit. Oh yeah, where's the receipt?
And then he's like, here's a replica of the suit I sold him, and it just looks like from Walmart, like a dingy. It is just like it's clearly flat and deflated. And he's like, this is the same. This is approximately the suit I sold him. You're like, what?
Yeah. Apparently, he mailed it to them. Yeah. And then got a call from Patterson saying, how do I make the shoulders bigger? How do I make the arms longer? Yeah. Which, you don't. That requires tailoring, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
He was like, oh, just stick shoulder pads
Yeah.
and use sticks for the hands. And
Yeah.
it's like, then how big was the suit to
Yeah.
begin with? Was it not big enough for? Was it not small enough for a person to fit in? I mean,
Mhm.
I don't understand.
How do you make it look like it has back muscles so when it turns it has
Yeah.
complete
Rippling
musculature?
muscles,
Yeah.
nonetheless.
Patty's buff, man.
But talking about American Werewolf in London, in 1997, in October of that year, John Landis, the director, what did he say? He said that it was a hoax.
Mhm.
That he said it was John Chambers who had done it, but John Chambers was already passed away at that point, so
Yeah.
he couldn't say anything. He said that only 6 people knew that at the time. He said he had learned the information from John Chambers while working with him on Beneath the Planet of the Apes in 1970.
Mhm.
So Howard Berger of Hollywood's K&B Effects Group said it was common knowledge within the film industry that Mr. Chambers was responsible for a hoax that turned Bigfoot into a worldwide cult.
Mm.
What? Mike McCracken Jr., a makeup artist and associate of Mr. Chambers, said, I'd say with absolute certainty that John was responsible. And I believe John said that he was good, but he wasn't that good.
I mean, the thing too is it's like he's working on Planet of the Apes. He's working on big budget movies that are like, hey, listen, here's money, here's craft services,
Mhm.
you know, here's this and that, and then here's these 2 cowboys like, hey, listen, we don't have any money. We don't have anything. We got 2 horses, and I got a camera that I'm gonna get arrested for because I haven't paid for it yet. Do you want to make some of the most amazing effects ever for something that's not gonna be seen in a major movie chain?
Yes.
I would. He's like, I would love to.
I would love to.
This will be my masterpiece, and it's not gonna be, you know, paid
I
for.
mean, I'm sure it helped his career in some way, though. But the fact that everyone attributed it to him.
Yeah.
You know.
Meanwhile, there could have been some guy who could have been like, "Oh, I did it," and used it as his like demo reel.
I mean, that's probably why he didn't say he didn't do it.
Yeah.
Probably because they're like, "Oh, you're the guy who did the makeup in the Bigfoot video."
Yeah.
Yeah, do our movie.
Yeah.
We'll pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars.
What? Huh? No, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say no to that. Be like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say it should have been a flood of bootleg Bigfoots.
Right.
It's also still considered a hoax just because nothing more has come out of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these days, everyone has, well, I shouldn't say everyone, almost everyone has a cell phone with a high-quality camera.
Mm-hmm.
So why hasn't anything of this quality come out since then?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a valid question, but...
Because people don't go get in touch with nature
it's
anymore
true.
like they used
That's,
to.
I mean, it's true.
And it also does a lot with the cameras as well. I mean, when you're shooting on film, you're not dealing with pixels.
Yeah.
I think me and Stefan, you guys don't know him. Me and my buddy.
Alex and I know him.
Yeah.
The listeners don't know Stefan.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and my buddy, he's a real big film buff.
Mm-hmm.
He was telling me that when they scan film, it's like 16K or something. Like, it's super high resolution, and then they compress it down and sell it to us at 4K.
Right.
You know, but you don't get that when you film something in 1080p. That's it. That's all you have, and the rest is just pixels.
Right.
When you have film, you're dealing with grains. You can magnify the image. I mean, it sucks that they weren't shooting on anything bigger.
Yeah.
But like 16 is pretty small. And
Yeah.
35 would have been magnifique, but you know, also he had no money, so.
Yeah, but he was able to convince one of the big special effects guys at the time to come down to like a valley for like a week and make a suit for no money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then Philip Morris, liar. Interesting. Stan Winston. I don't. You know.
Stan Winston, of course.
Yeah, Stan Winston.
Yeah.
He's did a bunch of stuff on Star Wars.
That's Terminator.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park.
He is not convinced of the footage.
Yeah.
He says that it is a man in a bad hairsuit. He said He said it's so bad that if one of my colleagues created this for a movie, they would be out of business. He said that a suit like that could be made for a couple of $100 or under $1,000 in that day.
Okay.
Which, I guess, apparently Roger Patterson had $700.
Yeah.
From this lady named Vilma Radford, because she loaned him money to make a movie, and then he never paid it back.
And then he spent it all on the suit.
Yeah. Apparently.
That's crazy. Well, Stan Winston, he passed away. He's rest in peace now, but...
Did he really?
Yeah.
When?
He passed away a while ago.
Shut the front door. No, he did not.
Yeah, Stan Winston passed away.
I'm sad.
While Eli Googles that, just for his confirmation, since we're on the topic of passing away, I did just want to mention one more thing. You know, I kind of talked about Bob Gimlin and this idea that, like, he regrets ever having been a part of it and he doesn't really enjoy it. I didn't read this as a quote. I'm kind of making this as an assumption. I think the reason that Gimlin does this, the reason that he continues to talk about it, is in memory of Patterson. Because even though they had been estranged for like 5 years, while Patterson was on his deathbed, Gimlin pleaded that when he recovered, hoping that he would recover, that they would go back to California and actually catch Bigfoot. But Patterson died the next day. So I think even though it may not be one of his favorite things, it may not be what he's most proud of, I think, and again, I'm making this as an assumption, this isn't anything I read about, I think that maybe in his heart, he's doing this in memory of Patterson.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things to where the guy pretty much gave everything he had to try to find Bigfoot, and he captured something, and everyone's just like, oh, well, you know, it's fake, and he's dead, and he's a liar, and Wikipedia's pooping all over him, and he's just like, hey, listen, like, he was just a guy trying to catch Bigfoot, like, leave him alone.
I know. So I guess you want to talk about Bob Aronius?
Let's see, Bobby.
Is there really a lot of information on him? Because he was just a bullet point.
Yeah, he's just a bullet point, just fat guy.
Well, all right, I'll share what I have of him.
And this is the guy who claims to have been in the suit.
Yeah.
He claims
Is
to
he
be the
still
man
alive?
in the suit. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
but I think
more or less.
He's just a loser now.
Yikes.
He's a country bumpkin.
And I'll show you why. He said he waited 37 years after the footage had come out to say anything about it, and he said he did not come forward initially because he had hoped to get paid.
Yeah.
After he didn't get paid, he said that if he did come forth, he would be convicted of fraud. For Lord knows what. Why? You're the guy in the Bigfoot suit. You're going to prison.
Sir, we're charging you for indecent exposure. But the suit's got the boobies, not me.
Yeah, I don't... Anyways, on...
2005.
He said that his relatives have claimed to have seen an ape suit in the car 2 days after the video was shot. Russ Buchanan, a close friend of Bob Aronius. I keep purposely saying his name wrong.
He sounds like a medieval villain.
Bob Hieronymus.
Yeah.
He said that he had told him the truth in confidentiality in '69. But there were the only two.
Only two in '69.
Yeah. I knew that was coming.
They did too.
And then here we go. This is where it gets interesting because he gives 3 different variations of what the suit was. So the first one he said weighed about 20 to 25 pounds, and it said it was made from a dead horse skin.
Yeah.
That Patterson had made himself. In no other way have I received information that Patterson was creating suits.
Yeah.
Of any sort.
Yeah.
The second one was after Phil Morris came out because Hieronymus came out like slightly before Phil Morris.
Yeah.
And then he changed his story and said that Phil Morris had made the suit and it was a gorilla suit, not a horsehide.
Yeah.
It seems like a pretty interesting detail you might remember.
And
I don't know.
Every time he says it, he puts a suit on a different way.
Yeah.
Because I think the first one he's like, it was pieces. I kind of slipped it on. and it was real rough and hot, and it had no. And then the second one's like, oh, there's a zipper on the back, and it was I had the gloves on, and so he keeps changing what the suit, like how you put it on.
Yeah, and then Hieronymus and Morris actually created a suit that they said could easily be duplicated for $7,000 to $8,000.
Yeah.
Which
Easily. Not you could do it over a weekend, you know.
Yeah. Also looks nothing like the figure in the video.
I think they have him walk in it too, and like it just
doesn't look.
Just this fat dumpy guy like struggling.
And then he did the polygraph test in 2005, and he passed.
Yeah.
They asked him, "Were you the guy in the suit?" And he said yes, and he passed.
Because I mean, isn't it the thing is like if you think you're telling the truth, then it's just like, oh, he's telling the truth. So it's just like, yeah, I was the guy in the suit because I think I was.
Well, get this. Here's a fact from 1991. That 2/3 of the scientific community with requisite background information to evaluate polygraph procedures considered polygraphy to be a pseudoscience.
Yeah.
That's, what is that, 14 years prior to this polygraph test that was done on TV?
Yeah.
Which I watched today.
Yeah.
It was not very good.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this show?
Yeah.
What is this?
It's a rough time, 2005.
Yeah, but liar, where's he at?
Yeah, his Wikipedia page should be calling him every name in the book.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, I think it's a real Bigfoot in the video.
I couldn't find, this is just like a funny quote, I couldn't find if this was attributed to him or not, because I tried to watch some interviews, and because I mentioned, I was like, I could have sworn I'd seen similar video to where some guy who didn't look like Bob said he was the guy in the suit.
Right.
And all I remember is him being like, yeah, so we were there in the day, it was kind of hot, I'm in the suit sweating, and Roger tells me, go stand by the goat squad over there and just get up and start walking.
Yeah.
He's like, okay. So he gets up and he walks, and he's like, so I'm walking, and I do the turn to make sure there's no hunters in the area because I don't want to get shot. I was like, yeah, because that's clearly like, you do a one take to make sure there's no hunters in the area where your friends are.
Yeah.
And it was just that's the only, I remember that quote, because I was like, that's pretty funny, but it doesn't make sense in context.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went on pretty long about that, but I just wanted to dismiss the hoaxes.
I mean, that's what this episode is about. It's all about the footage, so it's relevant.
Yeah. I mean, go watch the footage yourself, formulate your own opinion on it, but I mean, watch that and then just watch like anything from like the 60s about like monkeys, like this practical effects, like watch Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
And compare and contrast that, like, watch a production that had money versus two guys with horses.
I mean, what was before Planet of the Apes? Was it 2001?
Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
Which also won an Oscar for the makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Which also isn't very good.
I had a hard time getting
that
through that movie, my friends.
Yeah?
Oh my gosh.
I
was actually going to watch it today.
All that darkness and then 15 minutes of screaming chimps. I was not.
It's awesome.
I was not having it.
The Dawn of Man.
I had to give up.
Great. That's my favorite part of the movie. It's just
this will be a tangent, but I love that movie. I love 2001. I love it very much. And in high school, I was taking film and media class, and I think it was either me or my buddy. We were assigned to make a Sharpie commercial. It was like make a 2-minute long just commercial to get the idea of how to shoot. And I was like, it'd be great. You have a shot, of a barren wasteland, and you have the monkeys, and they're going about the daily lives, and one of them finds a Sharpie, and he starts writing on the walls with it, and he starts making art with it and stuff. And then you see, instead of the big monolith, it's a big Sharpie cap. And then, it points up. And then the music starts swelling. They're going crazy. They're drawn. And then one of them throws in the air, and it starts spinning. And then it stops in space, and it's a big Sharpie. And it says, Sharpie,
That's
revolutionary.
Revolutionary.
It's not my cup of tea. Not my kind of movie. I have respect for it, but it's
not
it's
your
understandable.
thing.
Not my thing.
It's understandable for sure. I felt that way for years.
But yeah, go watch 2001. It's good. I think, is there anything else you guys want to add?
Well, I just want to say that whether or not any of these stories are true, the idea of Bigfoot is alive and well, and that is in large part because Gimlin, who started off as a non-believer, was the one of the two people to help catch a glimpse of it on film, and that's what a lot of people hold on to when it comes to their belief that Bigfoot is out there.
Yeah.
It's out there.
It's out there. And Bigfoot women are stacked.
They're
apparently.
out there. They're out there eating fishes, killing people's dogs right now.
What?
At this very instant.
No.
As you're listening.
They're petting them dogs. Bigfoot's a gentle soul. He only kills dogmen.
And other dogs.
No.
All right, anyways.
Anywho, that's for another episode.
Join us next week when we start climbing up the mountain further. Woo!
Yeah.
We're going to go deeper into some evidence, specific pieces,
recordings of things.
Go into a little more detail. I mean, we've mentioned a little bit about it in the first episode, but the next episode is kind of just going to be a list in case you don't know of a lot of evidence that exists or you're looking for more evidence. We will provide that for you next
that way,
week.
Next time you walk down the street and someone's like, "Yeah, I don't think Bigfoot's real." You're like, "Well, I got some info for you."
Let me just whip this info out.
Let me whip and let me nay the Bigfoot way.
Whoa.
But we want to thank you for listening. My name is Alex Daikaiju. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Alex Daikaiju. That's Alex Daikaiju. And what about yourself?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter as well. My name is the same on both platforms. It's JASMINEMAEWITH. It's my full name, Jasmine Maywith.
And what about you, fella?
And I'm Eli Watson, and you can find me, just reach me through I run the Instagram page for Cryptid Campfire. That's probably the best way to reach me. Feel free to DM. I look at all the DMs.
Just keep your Fortnite adventures out of it.
Yeah. And I said this last week, but I'm going to say it again. I'm going to be attending the Bigfoot Festival in Oregon on August 17th. I'll be representing Cryptid Campfire.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I don't think Alex mentioned it in this one, but he actually runs the Cryptid Campfire Twitter.
Yeah.
We have the Twitter now.
There are some changes that happened just last week. After we finished recording, both Eli and Alex changed the handles of their Twitter accounts. So
And you will never find me again.
the Cryptid Campfire Twitter is just Cryptid Campfire. It's the same as it is on Instagram. Used to be Campfire Cryptid for an inside joke reason, and he didn't even
I didn't even realize it. You type in Cryptid Campfire so many times, you just start blurring together.
So yeah, you can follow the Twitter. That's what
follow
Alex
the
runs.
Twitter. I'm posting infos. You can ask us questions. Posting links to the Spotify and the and the iTunes.
And then Eli runs the Instagram, which we mentioned. Slide into those DMs.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't have an Instagram, don't have a Facebook, don't have a Twitter, you can email us at cryptidcampfirepodcast@gmail.com. Send us any stories you got, any cryptids you want to hear. If you have any ideas on what you think Bigfoot is, let us know.
Yeah, keep an eye on the story on the Instagram too. Eli reposts a lot of cryptid art, and then we occasionally have polls as well.
Yeah, if you have any cool cryptid art, send it my way.
So the posts on the main page are usually our cryptid facts, some behind the scenes stuff maybe, but check out the story too because there's some cool content that shows up on there as well.
Very true. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. We'll see you next week when we climb a little higher on Bigfoot Mountain.
Bring your water bottles!
Oh my God. Okay.
And your percolators.
There's a fish in the percolator.